I'm going to make a little drawing of a cat. Starting with the eye. I've traced the outlines beforehand, as I do with these kind of drawings, in which I want to concentrate on the hatchings. And immediately I'm working also on the pattern in its fur. Here I'm working on the eye. And sometimes when I want to accentuate a certain outline, I do not draw a line, but I put a series of dots there, as you could see. And for some reason I don't like to put lines on the paper, really. Apart from the first traced lines that I use to work on when I am actually drawing and hatching, I don't really use lines, but a series of dots, as you can see, where I need some sort of line. But I try to avoid that. I have this tendency, so I find it interesting myself. It happens intuitively. As you can see now, I'm adding accentuations. I just added some accentuations. And I'm actually using a thicker mechanical pencil than I sometimes use with smaller drawings. This pencil holds the graphite at the top, which gives it a firm hold. And I'm really adding accentuations to get the fur there, and also to get those to get the pattern in it. And I'm adding all kinds of accentuations and tonal values. Here, tonal value of the fur. And on the one hand, I'm adding, let's say, general hatching to make it darker, and immediately you see me adding some accentuations to suggest fur. So you have these small lines that seem to be placed in an irregular way. I found this image, by the way, on Pixabay. It's a place where I like to search for nice source photographs that I can use. It's a really nice place to find all kinds of images that you can use, and you can do everything with it, you know. And you can even sell your stuff commercially or so. They give the photographers give the photos away, more or less. So you do not even have to mention them. I need to contribute a little bit at that side myself, I think, to give back to that community. But I would suggest that you take a look there as well if you want to make drawings. It's a very interesting site. Here I'm adding all kinds of hatchings and accentuations, and as you can see here and there, my suggestive fur accentuations become a little bit larger. They seem a little more chaotic. But I want to get that fur convincingly on the paper. I try to get that convincingly on the paper anyway. And I have the tendency to go all kinds of directions with my accentuations of you know, the furry hatching, so to speak. But on the other hand, I have these hatchings which are generally in one direction, as you see here, to make it darker in general. So you have two kinds of approaches in hatchings or accentuations. One is quite straightforward in one direction. As I'm left-handed, it's a bit of a logical direction from, the diagonal from upper left to lower right. And on the other hand, there are these very, these more chaotic looking accentuations which go all kinds of directions. But even there's a certain rhythm in which I place them, I think, when I think about it. And now I need to work on the background because this cat has a certain lighting, and as you can see now, its face is lit from behind or from the left, so there's this white or light line on the border of its head. And when I make the background a little bit darker, you can see the outlines of the cat better, and you can see the lighting of the cat actually. Otherwise you don't really see it. So it really needs to have a certain darkness in the background to come forward more, so to say. Otherwise it's white against white and you cannot really see the cat clearly as it is now. Now I made the background a little bit darker. It comes forward a bit, and it's defined by its silhouette, more or less. Or silhouettes, the outlines that are clearly visible now, with that light line on the left, lighted area on the left, and otherwise you would not have seen it really. And by adding these cross hatchings in the background, as you can see, the drawing gets more dynamic as well. Adding some hairs. Actually, these hairs were in the photograph white, but it's a bit difficult to draw white lines when you only have one graphite pencil, so I make them dark, and they are effective as well in this way. Adding some hatchings and accentuations. When you have added a background, the image has changed a bit, quite a bit. So all of a sudden, a certain balance that you thought that was in the drawing can have changed, and you need to modify it again because certain areas you can see now in a different, I would almost say a different light, because the relationship between dark and light has changed a bit. So what was first perhaps a mid-tone is now become quite light or too dark or whatever, and sometimes you need to adjust again to that new situation. And adding some more darkness there, some dark hatchings. And it's also looking at the composition. I do not draw the cat totally to the border. I leave a certain area open there, and the background is also a sort of cloud on the paper, so to speak. So I try to make a poetic image, a pleasing image to the eye. And I want to get some certain sketchiness in it, certain spontaneity, and on the other hand, some areas of quite refined in their execution, like the eye, for example. And on the whole, I tried to get the form of the cat right, and I tried to get a convincing cat in the drawing. Adding some accentuations here and there. So the background gets a certain character as well, and makes it more expressive. A signature underneath it. And this is the finished drawing. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe. Thank you.